Hello, Rick Miracle here with another video. Number 68, part 2, the continuation of this book. The Work of All Ages, the ongoing plot to rule the world, from biblical times to the present, by Peter Christian. So I thought I would continue on with a brief synopsis, history of religion, the Jewish religion, Christian religion, the work of all ages. Because I think in future videos that I do here, this information will be helpful to be aware of it. What happened in the past? I know we've watched the movies at Christmas time and about Jesus' birth, or movies about Moses, and but how many people these days in 2015 are aware of a lot of stuff that a lot of us took for granted when we were younger? The dumbing down of America, obviously the intention of the powers that be, don't want people to know certain things. One of those things, like I said here, one of the objectives of the Zionist movement is to expand the state of Israel, to include much of the Mid-East, and rule the world from Jerusalem. Certain Jews are planning World War III to bring this about. So I read the books and I report. You decide. We know they're trying to privatize, even in Greece, I mentioned in the last video, the airport, municipal airport. They're trying to privatize everything. So it's corporations and entities that control the world that'll be running everything, and controlling the police departments and your politicians, right down to your mayor. And if a city or an area doesn't cooperate or submit to these people who want to control the world, well, they can just cause financial hardship, distress. And with all the black op programs and research they've done in laboratories, and they can cause death. And if they microchip everybody, they can turn people off, turn ATM cards off, credit cards off, close bank accounts. Sounds like a crazy world. But it seems it's more real than crazy. It's not a conspiracy theory anymore. It's conspiracy fact. So, Chapter 4, Decline and Fall. Like I said, just a synopsis of ancient history that has something to do with current history. We even know the Freemasons have drawn up plans. I've showed these in previous videos for the new King Solomon's temple in Israel. The Freemasons. And the Freemasons, according to what I've been reading and studying, are definitely the long arm of these Jewish factions who want to rule the world via their secret societies. Illuminati, Freemasonic lodges everywhere, Rosicrucians, Church of Satan, Knights of Malta, Knights of Columbus. I could go on here for half an hour, just naming the groups. Club of Rome, Bohemian Grove. If you don't know the Bohemian Grove and Alex Jones, go look it up. He managed to get in there. It's a private club, big forest in California. But he managed to get in there with a video camera and videotaped the cremation of care ritual, satanic ritual, to the god Moloch, where they throw a baby in the fire, they dress in long robes, apparently naked, ship in gay men. And if you've been watching my videos or doing any research on your own, apparently a huge portion of this satanic Illuminati rituals involves sex, sacrifice, drinking blood, and some other horrific activities to please their demon god. So I guess if you can't be good, you may as well be bad, and if you're going to be bad, you may as well be real bad. According to their one of their leaders or mentors, Aleister Crowley, the Book of the Law, do as thou wilt. And the second law is to return to the first law, do as thou wilt. And of course, God, back in Moses' time, gave Moses the 10 Commandments that say, for example, do not kill, do not commit adultery, do not steal, do not covet, do not bear false witness. There is only one God. Honor thy mother and father, stuff like that. Don't take God's name in vain. So there is a religious aspect to the reality we live in today, whether people want to admit it or not. You watch the TV shows, the devil sign they're doing, the devil sign, the 3 6s, the 1 eye, triangle on the Grammys, on football halftime shows, Olympic openings. If you've been paying attention, it's there. The all-seeing eye, the satanic symbolism, Hunger Games, Divergent, the Modern Family, commercials. That one commercial I saw on YouTube where 2 men were in the bathroom I mentioned. Gay men, half naked, together. And one draws a nice little heart on the steamy mirror. And the other one puts a big I in front of the heart, I love. And the other one does a little U with 2 dots over the U on the points. Little U, dot, dot. And then the other guy puts a little 2, I love you too. Well, I have discovered that that little U with the 2 dots equals 666 on your computer. Why would they design that into your computer and my computer? Hit Alt 666, and you could be doing a letter on email or in Word. And poof, this little U with 2 dots will come up. And if it doesn't come up, hit the nums lock key and try it again, it'll come up. Because when I first tried it, it wouldn't come up. So again, gay guys with the U with the 2 dots equals 666. The whole gay agenda, transgender. And this goes all the way back to Atlantean time too, from my research. That was a big problem when the Atlantean islands were sinking. And they were migrating over towards the Egyptian area, the Middle East. And they brought with them the technologies of cloning and eugenics. And they were creating creatures for sex slaves and worker slaves, and grotesque creatures. And it was a huge problem between the Egyptians and the Atlanteans. And they were warring about it, and finally they came to a peaceful resolution, and the Atlanteans ceased and desisted making all these cloned, grotesque creatures. And we all know mythology. We've seen the half horse, half man, and other creatures like that in mythology. So what if it's not mythology? Well, aren't they doing it today? Don't they propose to do that today? So let me get on with the decline and fall. Just a brief biblical historic background. I am using a new camera, different camera, trying to see if it'll work for my purposes. Moving on, decline and fall. The book of Kings continues with the story of the divided kingdom. After the death of King Solomon, the northern tribes would not accept his son Rehoboam as king, and instead made Jeroboam their king. So no Rehoboam, but they got Jeroboam as their king. Thus the United Kingdom lasted less than 100 years. 1020 to 1922 BC. So 1,000 years before Jesus was born. And split into two kingdoms. The northern kingdom, called Israel, and its capital at Shem, later called Samaria, with 10 tribes, and a southern kingdom called Judah, with its capital at Jerusalem, with 2 tribes, Judah, and Benjamin. So 1,000 years before Jesus was born, these King Solomon and these Hebrews had two kingdoms, 10 tribes and 2 tribes. Moving on. The prophet Elijah told Jehoram's wife that her husband had sinned. The prophet said this against the Lord, and that his kingdom would end without heirs, and that Israel would be scattered beyond the Euphrates. That's that river over there in Baghdad, Iraq. Remember, they want to have the territory from Baghdad, Iraq, to the Nile. If you go on the internet and look up Zionism and images, you will see where they draw that all out. And as we know, current news today, the Arabs are fleeing the Middle East for their lives. And they're going to all the countries, Greece and Germany, all over Europe, causing lots of distress and problems. Even Obama says they're going to take in the news anywhere from 10,000 to 100,000 here in the United States, probably per year. So obviously the Zionist state of Israel wants all the Arabs, no matter what religion they are, gone. Why? What do they have planned for the rest of the world? The northern kingdom was only to last 200 years when the Assyrians captured Samaria and scattered people, starting the diaspora, the dispersion. So when the Assyrians captured Samaria, Israel, now today, Palestine before they took over in 47, 46, the people were scattered all over the world, 100 years before Jesus. Most of the kings of Israel did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. To quote a phrase repeated many times in the book of Kings, the low point was reached in the reign of King Ahab, who ruled from 869 to 850, and Queen Jezebel. The prophet Elijah predicted 3 years of drought, which came to pass. Chapter 18 tells of Elijah challenging the prophets of Baal to a contest to see whether Baal or the Lord was more powerful. So they believed in these gods back then, and a Baal apparently is the devil type of god. And so let's see what it says here. The Lord won, of course, and the prophets of Baal were put to death. So if the Zionist Israel's, Jewish people, and their defamation league and all the other political PACs, action committees that control our congressmen and women and presidents and everybody else have their way, and they deem Christianity to be unsatisfactory, anti-Semitic, well, they put we Christians to death, like they did back here. That's why I do these videos. It's concerning issues. History does repeat itself. Yes? No? Shortly before the fall of Samaria in 722 BC, the prophet Hosea delivered a crushing message to the nation of Israel, comparing it to an unfaithful wife. We read in Hosea 19, 1.9, "For you are not my people, and I am not your God." Thus the covenants were broken. No longer could Israel count on the Lord's support. It is hard to imagine what effect this utter rejection had on the people. Most hoped for a reconciliation with the Lord, but others despaired and turned to other gods. I made a lot of statements making these videos, but I'm reading the book. You can go look this up in the Bible. Some even turned to Lucifer. It says in the book. And we know that the Jewish people are the ones who create, they brag about creating, all the Freemasonic lodges, Illuminati, and all those other secret mystery schools of Babylon, secret societies. Go look up Bill Cooper, William Cooper, Secret Mystery School. on YouTube and watch some of his research. Amazing information. So it says right here, yet again, in these books that I study, some even turn to Lucifer, the fallen angel, whom God had expelled from heaven for disobedience, and who became God's principal enemy on earth. Some people just don't believe, yet they'll believe in all this New Age, Mother Earth. The earth is alive in their mother, and all this other New Age material, and watch all that satanic stuff on TV. They'll believe all that. UFOs and aliens, they'll believe all that. They don't want to believe that in this spiritual world called heaven, that apparently there was a rebellion, and according to the Bible, God cast Lucifer, who is the instigator, who controls the earth now, and a third of the angels out of heaven. It's in the Bible. A lot of other documentation, which we will see in future videos. Crazy stuff. Meanwhile, the kingdom of Judah was having its ups and downs. Some of the kings were very upright. Most of the people were faithful to the Lord. After Josiah's reign, things went rapidly downhill in Judah, with 4 kings in quick succession. In 597, it's almost 600 years before Jesus, Jerusalem fell to the Babylonians, and some of the leaders were taken to Babylon. That would be Baghdad area in Iraq. Worse yet, the temple was destroyed, King Solomon's temple. It's hard to imagine how devastating this must have been to the people, especially in light of Hosea's telling of the Lord's rejection of the Israelites in the capture of Samaria in 722. Thus began the Babylonian exile. This is important to know. So here we're reading they were dispersed, dispersa, and there was an exile from the area where they now have Israel. So for all practical purposes, 3 to 2,500 years, they were dispersed all over the world. They have something called Aliyah. If you go on jpost.com, you'll see the little sticker for Aliyah, the button you can push. And you'll see plane loads, shiploads of people returning from all over the world right now. Celebrations, welcome committees, advertisement, come back to Israel. So they got this thing called the return, also known as Aliyah, that they're actually doing right now. So if people don't think this stuff that I'm talking about and the plans for a new world order are real, they have to understand that these things are actually happening. In 2015, in 2010, in 2000, 1995, 1985. For 40, 50, 60 years they've been running this program, Aliyah, bringing people from all over the world back to Israel. Meanwhile, we all know Syria, Egypt, Afghanistan, Iraq, 9/11 brought it all about. They've been destroying the countries, bombing the people, machine gunning the people, starving the people, destroying the resources, and the people are fleeing today, going to all the European cities. Is this part of the plan to cause all this chaos and anarchy to all those European cities, including the United States? It's a plan of destruction, it seems like. So look up jpost.com, the Jerusalem Post newspaper in English. Look up Aliyah, look at the pictures, and realize there's something going on right in front of everybody's faces. And Tel Aviv is being marketed on vacation websites as the most popular destination for gay men. And it says here they turn to Lucifer. Hey, you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to figure this stuff out. Most of Jerusalem had been destroyed along with the temple, whereas Babylon was a wealthy and cultured city. So the first temple, 2,500 years ago, was destroyed. Later on, they built the second temple, which was destroyed. And now, with the Freemasons and the other wealthy Zionist banksters and elites all over the world, they're rebuilding the third temple. The dots are connected. This whole storyline is connected. The reality of them wanting to take over the world is connected. The Jews were an intelligent people, soon rose to positions of responsibility in Babylon and other places. Wherever they went in the world, they rose high up in society. They were, how shall I say, they were very zealous, aggressive, to get in places in high society. They were jealous of those people who were in high society, and they wanted to be there. With an aggressive attitude that they would train their children, that most of us in the world can't fathom. We don't live and think that way. And they would, from my research, if they knew occultism and magic and witchcraft, and they didn't believe in God and they believed in Lucifer, I guess murder is not beyond them to take over companies and countries and marry into aristocrats, queens and kings. And they have done this over the thousands of years. They wanted to get into high places. Something obsessed them to do that. The final wording of the Torah, as we know it today, is believed to have been put together by the priest Uzzah by about 458 BC, 500 years before Jesus. And the Torah is not actually the Word of God. Well, the Torah might be part of the collection of the words of God. It's the Talmud is the nasty book, the one that they created from their own records and modes of operation, modus operandi, on how to rule the world and take from the goyim, the cattle, the other people, not Jews. So moving on here, reconstruction of the temple and of Jerusalem progressed in stages, just like it's doing now. The temple was finished in 515 BC. So it was destroyed in 587 and in 558, 515, so 60, 70 years later, and the authority of the Jews competing the final version by about 458. A group led by Nehemiah led the restoration of Jerusalem and its walls and repopulation of the city. And with Eliah now, they're repopulating the city. And prophecy-wise, part of the Armageddon, the end of the world, this major destruction, that Israel will be destroyed again, annihilated, maybe a nuclear bomb or whatever. And of course they have 300 nukes, so they can push those buttons with a program that's called the Samson option, whereas they take out all the major world cities at the same time. Stuff we should pay attention to. We should stop this nonsense. Judah was under the rule of foreign powers. Persia ruled from 538 to 332 BC, 300 years before Jesus, 500 years before Jesus, 200 years almost. Alexander the Great established the Macedonian Empire, introducing the Greek and Hellenistic period. This persisted for two sub-periods, the Ptolemaic and Egyptian period, 332 to 198, 200 years before Jesus, and the Seleucid Syrian period, 198 to 168, another 50 years. The Jews revolted under the leadership of Judas Maccabeus and obtained self-rule for about a century, from 166 to 63. So they self-ruled themselves before Jesus came for 100 years, from 166 before Jesus to 63 years before Jesus' birth. And Judah, as they renamed it, was under the Roman rule until the Roman Empire collapsed in the 5th century, AD 500 years, 50 years, 5th century. Century is 10 years, 50 years. AD, so 50 years after Jesus was crucified, Rome fell. And then the Jews had been expelled from Jerusalem again. Because of their natural talents and hard work, they often advanced to positions of authority in their adopted countries. Many became skilled in banking, finance, tax collecting, foreign trade, commerce, law, medicine, intelligence, and other professional fields. They kept in touch with each other and developed a truly international community which exists to this day. So if that's the case, that they had a propensity, a feverish desire to be in high places, judges, leaders, bankers, and we know about all the chaos and anarchy and wars and the horrible state of affairs on planet Earth during all this period of time. And if these people were the leaders and the ones who wanted to be in charge and switched over to Satan and Lucifer as their god, were into the occultism, magic, witchcraft, and controlling other people, other leaders, I guess we could say they shouldn't probably be in charge of everything. It's not going to get any better if we continue to let them be in charge. Just my opinion. Okay, then we got Christianity rising. Picture in the book here. All right, moving on. According to Christian lore, in about 7 BC, a boy was born to a Jewish couple from Nazareth who happened to be in Bethlehem for a census. They named him Jesus. The family were descendants of King David, which is why they came to Bethlehem, the city where David was born. His biological father was not Joseph. His mother was Mary, a virgin, whose egg was fertilized by the Holy Spirit. In accordance with angelic announcements by Joseph and Mary. So these angels appeared before Joseph and Mary and said this was going to happen. Thus, Jesus was the Son of God in Christian beliefs. And it's not so far-fetched if you've been paying attention to reality. Moses, God parting the sea, canes, staffs turning to snakes, locusts, and all kinds of other things in history. Jesus healing people, casting out demons, and even today with the New Age and psychic research, and people communicating with masters in the other world. Obviously, I guess that world is much more intelligent and created mankind, God and all that. So I suppose making Mary pregnant with a being from the spiritual world, Son of God, is, again, not so far-fetched. Even when we consider that in Hitler in Germany, according to Rabbi Marvin Antelman, we went over this in previous videos, but at one of the satanic rituals, occultic rituals, that Hitler had done, that was in Rabbi Marvin Antelman's diary, is they abducted a Munich gypsy, street man. So a gypsy from Munich, gypsy man, put him on an altar and sacrificed him in a satanic ritual, while a young lady laid on a neighboring altar to bring forth an interdimensional being to impregnate her. Apparently, according to Rabbi Marvin Antelman's diary, the entity, a ghost, a spirit, appeared but failed to impregnate the girl. So that's just one case. And then when we know even the Atlantean periods where they were doing cloning and all that stuff, and that we are spiritual beings, can leave our body, and the psychic research, and all this other stuff. Apparently these sciences, if you want to call it a science, secret mystery school of Babylon pretty much says it, they know things that they don't share with the public. And then in Alex Jones going into Bohemian Grove, tossing a baby into a burning fire under the giant god Moloch while they dress in long robes and have ship in gay men for sex. These satanic rituals have something to do with the evil deities, beings, demonic beings on the other side, helping them to have power on earth. So it just makes sense that obviously on the good side, God and all that, prayer and Jesus and other people who were healers can create miracles also. And all the shamans all over the world who take some kind of drug or go into a meditative state and go to the other dimension to get cures and solve problems for the tribes and the peoples. So getting used to the fact that there is this magical world, other world, and this material world is not the real world. Nobody gets off planet Earth alive. The spiritual world is the real world. My opinion. King Herod was told that a future king was born in his land. So Jesus was born, and King Herod was told that a future king was born in his land. That would be Jesus. He ordered his soldiers to kill all male babies under the age of 2 to eliminate possible competition for his throne. Wow, before Jesus was even preaching, they wanted to kill him. The gospel tells of an event when Jesus was 12. After the Passover festival, he stayed in the temple and had discussions with the priests, who were very impressed with his knowledge of scriptures, even though he had little or no formal education. Nothing is known of his life from age 12 to 30, except that he was a carpenter, as was his father Joseph. At age 30 or so, he embarked on a ministry for about 3 years. Like I said, this is just a little refresher course for people who probably, these days, with the dumbing down of America and the school systems, and even making it illegal, get court-martialed in the military if you're talking about Jesus. It's illegal to have the New Testament on understanding in Israel, and they have plans to make it anti-Semitic to have the New Testament and tell this information. In the books I went over, the Jewish Utopia and the American Jew who went to Israel, it's a lot of stuff we don't know, they don't want us to know. And they control the government, and they can make laws. Maybe they'll make a law that if you don't take the mark of the beast, their god, the chip, whatever, that you'll get beheaded. Maybe they'll make a law that if you believe in the real God and pray to the real God, you'll be beheaded. Could have a possession of a New Testament Bible. Don't swear allegiance to their devil god. It's crazy. I agree it's crazy. All right, so the whole thing began with his baptism by his cousin John in the Jordan River, and John the Baptist, at which time the Lord declared that Jesus was his son. So the Lord declared Jesus was his son. Jesus then spent the next 40 days and nights in the wilderness where he fasted and was tempted by Satan 3 times, but rejected the temptations. And I know right now, I'm not trying to be a religious preacher. We're doing book reviews. I'm more of a scientist. But if Lucifer, Satan, controls planet Earth, then could anybody possibly presume if Lucifer, Satan, tempted Jesus 3 times? During our lifetimes, is Satan tempting us all? Just an interesting question and thought. Seems to me the answer is yes. Later, he recruited 70 more disciples, including some women. So I only thought he had 12 disciples. Thus, we have an entirely Jewish group. So Jesus was a Jewish man, led by a Jew of Davidic David and ancestry, and consisting entirely of Jewish followers. So the Jewish people do like to make fun of us worldly people in Europe or even in America, that Jesus was a Jew and we worship a Jew. How come they're afraid? They want to get all that stuff out of the Bible and they don't want people to know. For many years, even the Vatican It was illegal for any normal citizen to possess a Bible. So what does he say here? Jesus said, I have come not to abolish, but to fulfill. And again, I'm only reading my highlighted portions here. We'll get the book, give credit where credit is due. If the publisher's rewarded for their publishing these books. I'm just doing book reviews. All right, here we go. You have heard that it was said in those ancient times, you shall not murder. That's the second tablet, the top commandment, number 6. Do not kill. You have heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lust already has committed adultery. And you shall not swear falsely, but carry out the vows you have made to the Lord. But Jesus says, do not swear unto the Lord at all. And the Freemasons swear on the Bible. And Jesus says you shouldn't be swearing on the Bible. And you shouldn't be looking at somebody else's wife with lust, because you've committed adultery already by that. We should get our emotional selves under control. It's taken me a lifetime. I'm sure I made tons of mistakes and things I've done. A pretty girl walks by, you don't think I look? Of course. Somebody says, hey, here's a nice cold beer. I take it. Do not resist an evildoer, but if anyone strikes you on the right cheek, turn to the other. A lot of people don't like that idea. You have heard that it is said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But Jesus says, I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. And I keep saying, the real world is the spiritual world, so there's really not too much they can do to us other than kill us. And we wind up in a much better place. Nobody gets off planet Earth alive. Make some smart decisions. Be good to your neighbor, your family, your friends. Try to do the right thing. I do. Thus, Jesus preached a message of love and kindness, which was substantially at variance with the existing practices. The Pharisees, who were very pious and very obedient to the law, were particularly upset with Jesus' teaching. Jesus, in turn, was often critical of the Pharisees, referring to them at one point as the synagogue of Satan. There it is again, biblical stuff. So these Zionist people in charge, are they from this spiritual synagogue of Satan? Is that important? How does that apply to 2015? The promotion by the media and all the book publishers and TV, who are all Zionist, bankster, Jewish folks. Most people know this. If they're the enemy of we the people and they want to take over the planet and kill off most of the population, as the USA Georgia Guidestones indicate, then that stuff that they're feeding us, the New Age material, might not be a good idea to believe in. If the wolf is putting a little bit of candy out there on the trail, and there's somebody coming along to pick up and eat, why do you think the wolf put it there? The wolf wants to eat you, like Little Red Riding Hood. Just saying, common sense. You don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to put this together. With the activities of J.L. Governments all over the world buying aircraft carriers, jets, police departments buying hollow point bullets, even ones with shrapnel that spreads apart when it hits you. It just doesn't kill you. It shreds apart inside of you. What creature who would ever even invent such a thing? Then they use their inventing and practicing with these Ebola plagues, flu-like plagues. So it looks like they're preparing for World War III. And then I'm reading this stuff about a synagogue of Satan and these people who rule the world, who that's their God. I report inside. The gospel tells of many instances of Jesus healing the sick and casting out demons. We're told of many miracles, including the feeding of 5,000, calming the storm in the Sea of Galilee, walking on water, changing water into wine, and raising Lazarus from the dead. Like I said, this is just a recap on religion. You didn't learn it all in Sunday school or you forgot. Jesus' face shone like the sun, and his clothes became as white as the light. So this is a story of a transfiguration when Jesus was connecting with God. His face shone as white as the light. And this is not, again, bringing this into today's reality. They have filmed crop circles being made, manifesting right in front of the person filming, videoing the crop circle being made. And there was this bright orb light flying all over the thing. You can look up on the internet and see some of these. UFO ships are bright flying orbs. And then there's all this talk about aliens and UFOs and interdimensional beings. CERN with Shiva, the demonic god, out front. 666 in the logo. On the Hoover Dam, a gigantic goat, which is the symbol for the devil, was put up on the dam. Big video of it. Shiva, Kali, the big demoness goddess, were put on the Empire State Building lately. Madonna and all these other people are doing these satanic Kali dances during these Grammys and football halftime shows, just like on Indiana Jones when they were lowering the lady down on the grate into the lava, molten lava. They were doing the Kali or the Shiva rituals. Again, what does it take for people to not see this? You got to be in complete denial not to see this. So a bright cloud covered the mountaintop. The voice of the Lord came from the cloud saying, "This is my son, the beloved. Listen to him." So here's a voice in the cloud, or maybe an image, and this is my son, listen to him. And I say they got something called Project Bluebeam right now, where they want to bring us some kind of false image of God coming on earth. So I suppose if you're in China, it'll be Buddha. And if you're in India, it'll be the Hindu god. And if you're in the United States or a Christian area, you'll see Jesus' face. Or over there in the Middle East, you might see Muhammad or something. Project Bluebeam, look it up. They want to bring about a false god and make everybody believe it's divine. See how all this is apropos to today? Near the end of his ministry, he came to Jerusalem, where he went to the temple and attacked the merchants and money changers, calling the temple a den of thieves. We know they're here at work today on earth. The den of thieves. Federal Reserve and Rothschild's banks and monetary fund and IMF. And oh my God, they've controlled almost everything, and they're interconnecting it so they can turn everything off. They're already microchipping people. All right, continuing on with this crazy stuff. Again, it's just a discussion. That was the last straw for Shehedin, which captured him with the help of his disciple Judas, tried him, convicted him of blasphemy, and turned him over to the Roman governor, Pontius Pilate, for execution. So the existing leaders of the Jewish temple had had enough of Jesus and his preaching of love and healing people and feeding people. What a horrible guy to be healing people and casting out demons and providing food and preaching that God loved them and wants them to obey the commandments. The crowd asked for the release of Barabbas and demanded the crucifixion of Jesus. Fearing a riot, Pilate ordered Jesus' execution. So Pontius Pilate, I guess that's his name, the governor of Rome, like the ambassador of Rome sent to Jerusalem to manage the affairs, offered the criminal or Jesus to be set free, and all the Jews said no. So they ordered Jesus' execution. They crucified him. Jesus rose from the dead on the third day and disappeared from his tomb, which was guarded by Roman soldiers. 40 days later, he ascended to heaven. All right. According to the book of Acts, 50 days after Jesus' resurrection from the dead, the Holy Spirit, again, spiritual being, came to the disciples, gave them special powers, and sent them on their ministries. They spread the word to Jew and Gentile alike. Saul of Tarsus was a Pharisee. He set out to persecute the new Jewish sect known as the Nazarenes. Jesus was born in Nazarene, which later became a new religion called Christianity. While on the road to Damascus to persecute that group, he had a vision of the risen Jesus, which completely changed his life. He never intended to establish a new religion, but rather to redefine Judaism to confirm the existing law. So Jesus wasn't trying to start a new religion. The Jews believed that their Messiah would be a powerful person. Got a school bus going by, making a lot of noise. The Jews believed that their Messiah would be a powerful person who would drive out their foreign rulers and establish an earthly kingdom ruled by Jews. So way back there when they crucified Jesus, they wanted to have an earthly kingdom. Jesus, on the other hand, spoke of a heavenly, spiritual kingdom. He preached love of God and your neighbors, kindness, forgiveness, peace, and similar ideas. He opposed violence and civil insurrection. And how come today so many people hate Christianity? It's because they've been mind controlled. The propaganda, the media owned by the synagogue of Satan. Again, I'm not trying to be a preacher here. I'm talking about science. I'm talking about history. I'm talking about us humans. I'm talking about people who want to kill us. Guns buying hollow point, police buying hollow point bullets. Social Security buying guns and bullets. Post office buying guns and bullets. Patriot Act, 9/11, Oklahoma City bombing, school shootings in movie theaters, guy goes into a black church, mind control, Project Montauk, MK Ultra, Project Paperclip. Look this stuff up. We got today, human beings are human beings like they were back then. We are biological beings with spiritual entities that make up our core. Without that spiritual being, your body would probably just flop over and die. My opinion. I don't want to be a preacher. I'm more of a scientist. But I also don't want to see these psychopaths nuke the cities, put some kind of Ebola plague in the sky. We know they're sky spraying us. They got these HARP microwave transmitters located strategically north, south, vectors all over the world, that they could just turn them on and start microwaving a city. It's pretty horrific, horrible, potential warfare against the population, the people of the planet. And the USA Georgia Guidestones say they want to depopulate the planet. Again, you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to put this together. Jade Helm right now, 2015, September. They're shipping all kinds of UN vehicles all over the United States with big UN symbols on them, United Nations. Tanks, warfare vehicles, ambulances, buses, FEMA camps, Targets, Walmart stores turning into FEMA camps, being converted as I'm speaking right now. The Pope is supposed to speak to Congress and the United Nations this week. Be curious what's going on. Will I make another video? It's a curious question. When are they going to pull the trigger? They're spending tons of money. They're organizing all this stuff. All the Middle East Arabs are fleeing for their lives. The economy in the United States is continuing to go down and down and down, and it's becoming a nation of renters. That was in the news. I didn't make it up. So you talk about that, and then you think about this stuff here biblically, and who's in charge of the world. The people who killed Jesus are in charge of the world right now. Or some faction of them. Remember in Revelation it says Jews who call themselves Jews but are not. They're people, maybe it's the Khazars or those big countries in Russia and all that took over the Jewish religion. So they would have an excuse that we're God's chosen people. That's our religion. And maybe they don't have a bit of Hebrew blood in them, Semitic blood, which is the blood of Arabs, so you can't be anti-Semitic. Anyways, this difference remains important to this day. Zionism is a current political movement which has a goal of rule of the world from Jerusalem and not a heavenly kingdom after death. You see how this is so apropos today as it was back then, and what all the people on TV doing devil signs, six signs, Illuminati signs. The Zionism, Illuminati, communism, and socialism and liberalism is all one and the same. It's meant to beguile everybody. Like poor little Pinocchio beguiled to that island, the cotton candy and Ferris wheels. What did they do? They shuffled him out the back onto a slave ship. Beguilement. In 4 canonical Gospels, Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John, the 4 books in the Bible, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, were written about 35 to 65 years after Jesus' death. All right, a little more here. Many Jews eventually became Christians, but antagonism between Jews and converts grew rapidly. Jewish leaders tried to silence the apostles and drive them out of Jerusalem. So a lot of Jews turned to Christianity. And Jesus was preaching love and treat each other good and healing. Guess that made him out to be a bad man for these people who wanted to be in control, like today. Paul preached at Jewish synagogues, but was most successful in converting Gentiles to Christianity. Women had important places in the church which Paul set up, whereas Judaism emphasizes male leadership. The book of Hebrews added to the strain. Apparently it was a sermon delivered to a congregation to convert to Christianity by an unknown preacher. It maintained that Christianity is superior to Judaism, and if there is such a thing as Luciferian, New Age, Satanism, I think anybody with any common sense would say that Christianity is better than that. And Aleister Crowley's Do As Thou Wilt and all this decadent sexual, gay, transgender, pansexual pedophilia agenda is bad compared to being decent and moral. Again, you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to answer that, but apparently a lot of people are brainwashed, mind controlled, watching The Simpsons. A lot of those shows, if you pay attention to what those cartoon characters are saying, pretty horrific. And don't get me wrong, I'm no prude. I don't think I watched that stuff, and 2.5 Men, and Modern Family, and I didn't know any better, personally. It maintained that Christianity is superior to Judaism. Jesus, being God's Son, is superior to the prophets, to Moses, and to priests, all of whom are mortal men. Jesus is the high priest of the superior sanctuary. Heaven versus the temple. Jesus is the fulfillment of the Jewish scriptures. Jesus brought a new covenant to replace the one broken with God's by the Jews. The final break occurred in the Council of Jenin in 95 AD, 95 years after Jesus' birth, when the Jewish leadership declared that Christians could no longer worship in Jewish synagogues. Shortly thereafter, the Talmud began to be written. So these people were very upset, and they had Jesus killed, and now they don't want the Christians in the Jewish temples. And they're writing a new Bible called the Talmud. One version in Palestine and a longer, more definitive version in Babylon. As we will see later, part of these works were extremely critical of Christianity. You think? And all those Freemasonic books we went over, they do not like Christianity. And the Freemasons didn't call us goyim and cattle, they called us profane. In time, the Talmud became the most important to Judaism than the Torah itself, especially among the Orthodox Jews. Much of the Talmud is very critical of Christianity. In time, the Talmud became the most important book of the Jews. So I could get more here, but what I really want to do with this video is kind of move forward, skip a lot of this book, and get to the meat and potatoes. I'm going to pass on the rise of Islam and pass on the Roman Empire. I think we got it, but I will go talk about the Khazars that I mentioned earlier. The Khazars, page 65. The Khazars are a very important part of our story because they are the ancestors of about 80% of the Jews in the world today. They are non-Semitic Jews because they never inhabited Canaan. They never there where Palestine is now. They never were there where Israel is now. They constitute 80% of the Jews, but they have no Jewish blood in them. So it might behoove us to say, okay, who are they? If they're not Jews, as it says in the Bible. Revelation 9. They are also the ancestors of the Bolsheviks who seized power in Russia in 1917. So in 1917, when the United States, NATO, and leaders in England trained a bunch of infiltrators and put them on a train and got them into Russia, they killed the Russian Tsar and his family, took over that vast continent, bigger than the United States, twice as big, killed like 100 million Christians and other good people. So they took control of Russia in 1917, which they could not have done if they didn't create World War I in 1914 to 1916 or 17, which they couldn't have done if they didn't create the Federal Reserve in 1913, December 21st, while the politicians, congressmen and senators, were on vacation, and they conspired with the plan with President Hoover. So as I keep saying, everything was planned. So now they own Russia, 1917. And from 1917 to 1927, they proceeded to kill 100 million people. 25 million admitted in one of the Jerusalem newspapers. And remember, they're claiming they killed 6 million Jews in Germany. So wait a minute. And that's just been reparations are paid and trials and hounding guards and people for 60 years since World War II. But prior to that, they killed 100 million Christians and other good people, but you never hear anything about that. And this was the Bolshevik Jewish people, who were probably not even Jewish people. So you just see the big elephant in a room nobody pays attention to, but the little tiny mouse in the room, the 6 million versus the 100 million, gets all the attention. These people are in charge. They own the newspapers, the media, the school books, everything. It would behoove us to figure that out. They are also the ancestors of the Bolsheviks, who seized power in Russia in 1917, the Khazars. Go get this book. Read it yourself. Don't believe everything that's in this book, and don't believe me. But this is information. It needs to be investigated. If it's true, it needs to be acknowledged and taught in the schools. It needs to be stopped before they nuke the planet or something. Or do as the U.S. Georgia Guidestones say, kill off 85% of the population. Make the United States into a nation of renters. Make the world into a world of renters. And never be able to climb up out of that hole because they're drugging us with fluoride in the water. Sky spraying God knows what in the air. Putting God knows what in the gigantic factories making all the cereals for children. You don't know what they put in those cereals. Bottled water, beer, juice. They control these manufacturing companies. They can put whatever they want to in these things anytime they want. Just say it. It is what it is. The Khazars were a Mongol Turkic tribe which originated in the 4th century AD. So that's after Jesus. So they were nomads who lived in circular tents and moved throughout the Russian steppes. That would be the Russian highlands to the lowlands. They were excellent horsemen. Their cavalry won many battles in the neighboring tribes. At its height, Khazaria was a vast empire centered on the Caspian Sea, which was then known as the Khazarian Sea. The empire extended from the Black Sea to the Aral Sea, included much of what is today southwestern Russia and Kazakhstan. They ruled the eastern and southern Slavia, the Volga Bulgars, and the Kavrus, all who have paid them tribute. So they ruled all these countries that paid them tribute. These are the people in charge of probably the Illuminati and all these people running the world right now, calling themselves Jews. How many Jews are on it, join them? I don't know. How many are opposed to them? Look up Zionism and images, and you will see. Or read books from Henry McCall, PhD Jewish author, Illuminati, the cult that hijacked the world. Rabbi Marvin Edelman, to eliminate the opate. The opate means believing in God. They want to eliminate your faith in God, my faith in God, because they know it's powerful. Even when Jesus would walk into a village, somebody who would be deemed insane, a raving maniac, the villagers didn't know the real reason, but he was possessed by a demon. So this raving maniac would see Jesus walking. Jesus would just look like a man like me to you and me. But to this person possessed, the demonic entity recognized him, and he would scream out, "What are you doing here? It's not my time to go." And Jesus would take his hand and say, "Out of him," and cast the demon out of that person, and that person would revert to a normal person. Casting out demons. And even the Catholic Church lately, with all the Satanism in the world, has been training more exorcist priests. It's a big problem. You look at Hollywood, you look at these stars, or your future book I'm going to go over exposes the Hollywood satanic meditation and other occult activities to be possessed by demons to play those parts in some of those movies. Crazy? Like I said, everything I talk about matches, goes together. Connect the dots. By the year AD 700, 700 years after Jesus, the Khazars controlled the Caucasus Mountains. The Byzantine Empire, that's up there where Greece is and just north of the Mediterranean Sea, which was Christian, was to the southwest. The Muslim Caliphate was to their southeast and was trying to expand northward into Eastern Europe. You see how this is all appropriate to talk about? This is what's going on now. All the Arabs are fleeing the Middle East. We have history repeating itself. Having a large army and having control of the Caucasus Mountains, the Khazars were able to stop the Muslim advance. And some say that's why they overthrew the president in Ukraine and are now causing chaos and destruction there, with people fleeing to Belarus and neighboring countries, because that was the previous homeland of these Khazars. Some say they want their homeland back. Stuff we don't know. So there's more here, but I didn't want to read it. I just want to let you know that these people exist. They got a long history here. Khazars. Apparently, then we had the Crusades with the Romans from the Church, the Vatican, going across this Byzantine area, the land north of the Mediterranean, because Italy and all that, you have to go by sea or march a long army on the northern shore of the Mediterranean over to Israel, which I've done a book on that once before. 8 crusades and over 300 years, and they slaughtered the Arabs. And then 30, 40 years later, after crusade number 1, some Arab leader would rise up, form an army, and slaughter all those pilgrims that were Christians. The elites, kings and queens and princes and nobles, would hop on a ship on the shore in Jerusalem, along the coast of Israel, and sail back home. All the pilgrims were usually slaughtered. So then 30, 40 years later, they have another crusade. They march across the northern of the Mediterranean, through Greece and all those countries, and pillaged and raped and robbed along the way to feed themselves till they got to Jerusalem and Israel, Palestine, Canaan, whatever they called it back then. Mass murdered everybody. And they murdered even the children and the women. They took a knife and gutted them because they might have swallowed a gold coin. It was all after the wealth. So nobody left the city alive. They had to gut them, spill their blood and guts on the ground and search for a gold coin. So then they would take over all the castles and rule for another 30, 40 years. And then another Arab leader would rise up and slaughter all the pilgrims while all the elites hopped on the ship and sailed back home. 8 times. 1000 to 1300 AD. You think the Arabs might be tired of that? It's not people like me or people who watch this video or normal Jewish people who want to live in peace. Some very evil people doing some very evil things on this planet, and I believe they have some evil things planned for the future. So the Roman Catholic Church and the Eastern Orthodox churches formally split over theological and political differences, thereby dividing the Christianity into 2 parts. So that land north of the Mediterranean, not off towards England and France and Italy, which was west and south, but all those countries, Benghazi, or look at a map, Romania, Transylvania, a bunch of countries there. They didn't like that the Roman Church said that the Pope was the representative God on earth of the Christians. So the Byzantines in the north said we could pick our own Pope and leaders. We don't need... And the same thing with the Muslims, with the Shiites and the Sunnis. One party wants a blood descendant of Muhammad to rule that church, the Islam, and the other party wants them to be able to pick their own leaders. So it's so ironic that they have the 2 battles going on between the Christian religion, the Rome and the Byzantines, and the Islamic religion with the Shiites and Sunnis, which is about the same kind of thing. And apparently, even in the Jewish religion, there are the Orthodox and the Reformed Jewish people, which some Jewish people stick with God, even Christianity. And in Israel, you might have a bomb in your mailbox if you tried to start preaching Christianity and announce that Jesus was the Savior. And then some of the Jewish people reverted over to the Luciferian satanic doctrine. And here in the United States in America, we got Shiva and Kali, the demonic beings called the Destroyer, up on the Empire State Building recently. CERN. Alright, the phone ringeth. I just want to make a short description here. So that was the battle between the Roman Christians and the Byzantines from the north. That battle still goes on today. And then the Crusades 8 times. Horrific affair. People should look into that. And again, we're reminded that they did this back then. Look at those people. Axes, hacking off heads and arms. What will they do today? That's my point. So there's a lot here I read that I'm not going to go over. At some point, you can go get the book and if you want to get all the scoop on everything. Here's an interesting statement here. Jews have always considered Christianity to be their enemy. Now remember, they control the U.S. Jewish people do. Whether anybody wants to agree to it or not, we all know it. I've shown you the Tex Mars stuff, all the books and documents. They're all in high places, Zionist Jews, whatever you want to call them. CEOs of corporations and behind the political people. They want to be faceless. They don't want everybody to know. In the Roman Catholic Church, their anti-Semitic archenemy, according whenever groups arose to oppose the church, Jews supported them. An enemy of our enemy is our friend. So you got a bunch of nasty stuff going on in the world. Okay, here's what I wanted to touch on. Freemasonry in this book. You see how it's all connected? Most people think of Freemasonry as primarily a Christian organization, and indeed the majority of its members are Christians. However, it was formed entirely by Jews to destroy Christianity from behind the scenes. Dr. Isaiah Wise said, Masonry is a Jewish institution whose history, degrees, charges, passwords, and explanations are Jewish from beginning to end. Jews are included in its membership, but they keep their true purpose hidden. The Egyptian trinity of Isis, we have this ISIS freaking out scare in the Middle East. ISIS is coming, ISIS is beheading people. Osiris and Horus, the all-seeing eye on the dollar bill in the United States. See how all this stuff is real? With his all-seeing eye are part of it. The circle with the dot in the center symbolizes the sun, and also the male and the female. This would be the New Age material. Luciferianism and Illuminati, are basic beliefs. Blood oaths are part of their basic ritual. The Christian God, called by them Adoni, is considered evil, and Lucifer is worshipped. So, caring for your fellow man, healing people, and preaching love and kindness is evil, but gay marriage, pedophilia, transgenderism, pansexual, adultery, and all that other stuff, bisexuality, is good, according to this new philosophy, which is supposed to be forced on humanity. And those who resist, off with their heads. Is that the case? I'm just reading books and a little commentary of my interpretation. Like I say, people who watch my videos, it's information, you process it, you decide. Other ideas were drawn from the Zoroastrianisms, Gnostics, and mechanisms, other religions. Freemasonry is a universal religion open to, so Freemasonry and those temples in your town, the Freemasonic lodges are called temples, if you look at the building. And on the cornerstone, they have two calendars, the Christian calendar date, and around the corner, the Jewish calendar date. Further evidence that they are Jewish organizations. So it's a universal religion open to anyone who believes in a supreme being. Jews are welcome, and many have joined. Jewish ideas such as the temple and its architect Hiram Abiff are included in the lore. And we went over many Freemasonic books, including the Bible and the Blue Lodge Handbook and other stuff, and we'll go over some more. But apparently it is true that it is a Jewish organization. It talks about King Solomon and the temple and all that stuff. Over and over and over. Secret passwords and threat of death if you tell anybody. All right, are included in the lore. The Talmudic Kabbalah, here we go, the Kabbalah, the occult, is an integral part of the beliefs. Freemasonry is an outgrowth of Rosicrucianism, which was organized in 1579. Sir Francis Bacon, a magician, a Rosicrucian who was one of the founders of Freemasonry, unlike the secret brotherhood, Freemasonry is an open society, although members must take life-threatening... Oh, got a bug on me. Big dragonfly landed on my hand. Must take a life-threatening blood oaths not to reveal its secrets. Freemasons are a Masonic political movement based on the Jewish rituals and symbolism. Not me, Peter Christian. Freemasonry uses a hierarchical structure, an elaborate spy system, and uses use of wealth to gain power under the cover of science and philanthropy. It includes oaths of secrecy. Like I said, they took over Ford Foundation, Carnegie Foundation, they Council of Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commissions, Club of Rome's, Bohemian Grove. I can sit here for a half an hour and think up names. The first American lodge was formed by Jews in Newport, Rhode Island in 1658. It consisted of 15 Jews from Holland that were associated with the Touro synagogue. The official founding of the Grand Lodge in London occurred in 1717. It serves as an adjunct to the Whig Party, opposed to the Tories. The Grand Orient Lodge in Paris was a rival group with more secretive ideas, and it was the Masonic lodges in France that gave us the Statue of Liberty. Lucifer's known as the light bearer. The Statue of Liberty has a light, and she's the bearer. And if you look at it closely, it looks like a man's face, Hermes, the god of the underworld. Just saying. All right, let's move on here. In 1738, Pope Clement XII issued a papal bull condemning Freemasonry and ordering Roman Catholics not to get involved with it under penalty of excommunication. He stated that the Jews and freethinkers turned the lodges into agencies of subversion. Freemasons promoted the ideas of the French Revolution: liberty, equality, fraternity, and the idea of a future heaven on earth. So they're talking about a heaven on earth, which is going to be quite an interesting place with a gigantic orgy going on, with everybody doing everything, pansexualism. I think I'd rather pass on that. Beam me up, Jesus. If they have a rapture, I'd like to get beamed up. People start popping, disappearing everywhere, the people who believe in Jesus. And he came and died on the cross for our sins. A lot better than the heaven on earth they want, apparently, for their stuff that they're teaching. Liberty became the excuse for license, sexual liberation, and immorality, overturning Catholic morality. In 1751, Pope Benedict XIV issued a similar bull. You should see some of my future videos about some of this secret psychic research and mind control stuff they were doing in Montauk and military bases and other laboratories all over the country, mind controlling people, making zombies, microchipping people. We already know about a lot of, they got this Planet X scare, asteroid hitting Earth. And then you have mysterious astronomers dying mysteriously. Said that backwards. Astronomers, a bunch of them in a row, dying, falling out of ski lifts, hitting by a car. Then you got biologists studying vaccines, dying mysteriously. Banksters, lots of them were dying a few months ago. Boom, 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 this banker, that banker, Merrill Lynch, Morgan and Chase. Then Obama and the governments are purging all the good military leaders who they, I guess, have reason to believe they won't cooperate with killing off the American people and the world's people. So all this stuff is apropos to our conversation. Not have to be a religious preacher to see what's going on today and reading what's in history. Freemasonic lodges on every corner. All right, I'm trying to finish this video up. The basic structure of Freemasonry is the Blue Lodge. We went over the Blue Lodge handbook. I think I did 12 videos, 2 hours each, 24 hours. Wow. Which consists of 3 degrees. The first degree is Entered Apprentice Mason. Second degree is Fellow Craft Mason. Third degree is Master Mason. And get this, most Freemasons stop at that level. So when you say my uncle was a member, my brother, my dad, it doesn't mean they were evil. They didn't know what they were part of. It is a kind of a local community group where people get to know each other and get connections for big jobs or contracts. But the leaders of the lodge are looking for individuals who will go to the dark side, like in the Star Wars movie, who will join Darth Vader and the Emperor to rule the world. Just saying, a little humor here. All right, so most people stay at that level. They got Scottish Rite, 32 degrees, York Rite, 13 degrees. And the Scottish Rite, the highest degree, is Sublime Prince of the Royal Secret, whose members become Shriners. And here at these Shriners meetings, they Get this goat, and these guys can ride the goat around naked and have sex with the goat. There's a lot more going on. Look on the video, some of these Masonic parties. Occultism, witchcraft, Satanism. And you got these blue signs all over the United States on highways that say ancient and accepted Freemasonry. Is that some kind of legal notice putting us on notice? Because if you don't object to it by law, that's a kind of a giving that law justice. It becomes law if nobody objects. So I got these little blue dish size, like a dinner plate. Ancient and accepted order of noble and mystic shrine. Freemasonry suffered, hear this now, and I've been saying some of these things, and I don't want people to believe me, but here's more evidence. Suffered a major reversal in America in 1826. A member, Captain William Morgan, divulged Masonic secrets publicly. Contrary to Masonic oath, he was ritually murdered. In 1871, Albert Pike, the head of Freemasonry in America, and Giuseppe Mazzini, an Italian leader, developed a plan for world conquest by means of 3 world wars. And it seems like they're preparing for World War III right now. Hence is why I'm doing this research and making these videos. I'd like for us all to avoid World War III. You think that's a good idea, to try to avoid World War III? And I think that can only be done through knowledge. Who are these players behind the scenes? The first was to place an Illuminati dictatorship in Russia. That was accomplished by the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917, during World War I. The second was for Russia to capture Europe, which happened in World War II. Remember, Russia, with the Iron Curtain, owned much of Europe, controlled it with communism for years. And tearing down the wall, I think, was part of the game plan to ferment all these problems to create World War III. They planned everything. The third was the Battle of Armageddon, the one that's supposed to be coming. And the Freemasons are even built plans to help rebuild the King Solomon's Temple. I showed you the pictures of those plans in Text Mars newsletter. Illuminati, Freemasons, Zionism, Jesuits, banksters, occultism, witchcraft, everything I keep saying, it's all connected. And a lot of the elitists in this world are catering to these people, like all the presidents right now running for presidency in 2016. One lady said, if I become elected president, the first thing I'm doing is calling Benjamin Netanyahu. The guy who said all those nasty things in Fink's Bar. Go look it up, Benjamin Netanyahu, Fink's Bar. So the Third World War would be a battle of Armageddon with Muslims against Christians and Jews. This may occur shortly, using Iran as a pretext for nuclear war. Freemasonry is an integral part of the Jewish plan for the New World Order, which could result in Israel being the ruler of the world. In 1872, Albert Pike wrote Morals and Dogma, which had become the Bible for Freemasonry. Originally, it was given only to the 33-degree Masons, later to a wider audience. It set forth the beliefs of Freemasonry and identifies Lucifer, the light bearer, as the Masonic God. Another Masonic leader, Manly Hall, wrote The Secret Teachings of All Ages in 1928. Wow. Well, I can't say that I really like that other camera. Kind of zoomed me up too close. But I like to try out the different cameras and see how they work out. This one's an Asus iPad, and the other one's an Asus iPad that's a smaller one. I've tried many different devices to make good recordings for my videos. So one more video I will do with this book, because there just happens to be some very interesting topics. The Rothschilds, the Order of the Illuminati, some of this information may be a little boring, but I think background information, the Kabbalah, communism, important subjects, all related to this threat we are under on the world today. Zionism, the protocols of Zion we've been going over. I'd like to think I do a very thorough investigation. The Federal Reserve System I keep talking about. I encourage people to the Russian Revolution I keep talking about. The State of Israel. So all the way from historic events to gaining control over American culture. Go buy the book. Oh, I will make one more on this book to discuss those issues which are just so important. But meanwhile, I have one other little treat here, one of my picture shows. I talked about Aliyah. If people don't believe what is really going on, well, maybe a picture will tell 1,000 words. But they have planes. This has been going on 60 years. They've been causing havoc. Everything from Argentina to the United States. They want the Jews to be persecuted, be thought of as the problem, so that the local inhabitants of whatever country will make life tough for them, so that they will flee to Israel. They've been doing this on purpose, even in Iraq. And the Jews in Iran right now won't leave. But anyways, they have a program called Aliyah. They've even paid people $20,000, $60,000 per person to move to Israel if you were Jewish. Nobody else can get this. So anyways, if you do happen to be one of the groups that show up, they take pictures and have big parties. You can see on the plane there, it says Aliyah, right into that little star in the center there. You can go on the internet and look up Aliyah images. This is back during World War I and World War II. That's when they started this. This is all a plan, I keep saying. The New Age, the New World Order, the propaganda. It's all a plan. It's been going on for a long time. They take nice photos of the families when they arrive. And they were shipping them over there during World War I and World War II. Look at that six-pointed star. That was on King Solomon's ring. It was apparently magical, witchcraft. It could call forth demons. Yep, grand celebrations, people returning to Israel. And apparently when Aliyah ends, that's when the bomb comes down on all of us. There's another plane load. They look like they're happy folks, don't they? You don't think these people are serious? And they want Americans and people worldwide not to believe in God. And people in the United States, in the New Age, they'll actually tell you they don't believe in God anymore. They're falling for the propaganda. Look at this. The whole family's kissing the ground. Aliyah. All over the world. California, New York, Argentina, European countries. Aliyah. The return. After the dispersion we talked about in that book, 3,000, 2,500 years ago, 2,000 years ago, they blow the trumpet. The people are coming home. And remember, Tel Aviv is now the #1 gay beach to go to. So if you're gay and you want to go where all these Jew men are gay and engage in some activities, you're not allowed to marry the Jewish people, though. But you can have sex with them. And their Bible says they can have sex with Gentiles, goyim, cattle. Aliyah, the rebirth of Israel. And of course, not all Jews are in on this and don't participate in the homosexuality. A boy, a Jewish immigrant from Yemen, speaks to the media upon his arrival at Ben Gurion International, February 19, 2009. The Jews of Yemen, 9 of them members of the same family, arrived on Israel on Thursday. There is an event going on. There is a plan, and if we read the Jewish Utopia and all this other stuff, it's not a good plan, this New World Order. Not good at all for us goyim, cattle, Christians. Aliyah flight schedule. See this where that little red plane is? It's a serious business. They've been causing turmoil and havoc all over the world to get Jews to live. Here's something interesting. 66. Israel 66. You've got Aliyah questions, we've got answers. Stuff going on people are unaware of. These people are serious. It's a feverish thing. It's an obsession. How does it affect the rest of us? It's been going on. That's why they caused World War I and World War II. Make no mistake about it. Causing Nazism, hatred for the Jews, to get them to go home. What's the future plan? What does the Bible say? What happens when they all get home? Is that when Armageddon happens? The world blows up? They nuke the world, destroy everybody else? They've been doing it for a while. By the bankster Rothschilds, Rockefeller, Chases. A huge plan. And how many people know about Aliyah? It's called the Return. Return to Israel. From all over the world. If you're Jewish, they're begging you to return. They're marketing. They'll pay you. Now you know why they need to get the Arabs to flee all the other countries for their expansionism. Because all they have is this little country. This is my Israel. Look at this. Aliyah. What's going on? Aliyah, they're all at the beach having a good time. Aliyah, saluting. Here they're all praying at the airport. This is what we're dealing with. Look at these guys. A little fanatical, you think? Members of the Beni Mishi are seen after arriving at Ben Gurion November 21, 2006. "51 people who claim Jewish descent, the lost Jewish immigrated from Israel from a remote corner of India." They're bringing them in from India, a lost family of ancient tribe from India. They're going all over the world trying to get these Jews to return home. A newly arrived Jewish immigrant from India recites a prayer, November 2006. Meanwhile, over here in the U.S., a lot of people are told there's no God and they want to destroy Christianity. And people are believing it. These people are crazy to go home all over the world. Chaos is being caused to get them to go. They're being paid money. Have whole organizations to sell their houses, their companies. It's crazy. A liar. Three generations of American Jewish immigrants to Israel. 67 years ago, there wasn't anybody there. Now they got millions. Now you know why the Arabs are all fleeing for their lives with bombs and machine guns and starvation and no water. A liar. A liar. A liar. Such little details people don't think about. They don't, oh, there's nothing to it, Rick. Why are they getting all the Jews to return to Israel? What do they have planned for the world? A liar. They have all these advertisements. You find your love in a liar. Articles I've seen. Oh, I went there for vacation and I met this man and I fell in love. A liar. Called the return. It's all biblical prophecy. People don't want to believe. All kinds of pictures on Elia Images website. Just put in Elia and images, and you will see that they've been doing it for quite a while. There wasn't any people before any significant people back then. Before World War I. But they wrote a book about it in 1888, Theodore Herschel and Rothschilds, and they all planned this thing. All this is going on, 100 years more. A liar revolution. So the rest of the world, Jade Helm, and in Europe they're doing something similar in Canada, they're dispersing troops, turning Walmarts and Target stores and other facilities into FEMA camps, and machine guns are being purchased, and weapons, bayonets sold to the police departments, delivered to them. Ron Paul talked about that. And they're practicing with plagues and sky spraying. Meanwhile, a liar. Everybody's joyous. Israel's growing like a weed. And the rest of the world is being taken down. A liar. Future Israeli military people. All these children will be warriors for a liar. It's mandatory when you go to Israel to serve a couple years in the military. A liar. Israel is using missiles to protect its civilians. Hamas is using civilians to protect its missiles. The propaganda is endless. And there's people that actually believe this stuff. Meanwhile, they have a liar all over the world, marketing, paying people, causing chaos. There's books all published about this. Maybe at some time I'll go over one. But a liar, big events, big celebrations. While they're destroying Europe and the United States, Canada, other countries. The diaspora, when the people left years ago, they're coming back. World War I maybe? A liar, coming home. Why do you think they had World War I in Germany and all those problems? Russia, all those problems. Israel Prime Minister Ariel Sharon greets immigrants from France upon their arrival at the airport. Even the Prime Minister, the one who said we control America, is out there meeting the immigrants. Big issue. Prime Minister Ariel Sharon poses for pictures with the Shelley family. New immigrants from France. July 24th, 2004. It's been going on a while. Twin Towers taken down. Aliyah. Joy of Aliyah. See the marketing propaganda campaign? And of course here in the United States they have the two gay guys with the mirror doing the 666 symbol. Marketing. Aliyah. Here in the United States it's cool to be gay. Kill the Christians. Ban the Bible. Meanwhile, Aliyah. Just makes me wonder, do people get it? Aliyah. They're celebrating bringing the children there. They got to have their blood checked and everything to make sure they're Jewish. Aliyah. Meanwhile, in the Middle East, the citizens, the Arabs, are fleeing and going to all the European cities, causing lots of problems. And Obama said we're getting 10,000, 100,000 Syrians. And they're marketing a journey through time. Aliyah, rebirth of a nation. Remember, this is the nation that's supposed to rule the world. All those babies and people and pictures, Jews returning from all over the world, who will get the Israeli propaganda. Go look on the Aliyah Images website. Just Yahoo search Aliyah Images. And these pictures, these are probably about a year old. I'm sure there's all kinds of new ones now. Anyways, let's add this collection to the work of all ages. This end-time prophecy discusses when the Jews return. And the implications are not very good. They want to bring about this Armageddon thing. And they want to rule the world, as we've seen in the books I've gone over. Thank you for watching my videos. Rick Miracle reporting.